Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Mr. Bharat Shah, Executive Director at Task Group, joining in. Welcome to the show, Mr. Shah, and always a pleasure to speak to you and get insights from you. Mr. Shah, my first question coming to you is, according to you, how different is this Diwali for the markets versus the last 2 to 3 years?
In what way?
From a sentiment perspective.
How do I know about that? I can't really gauge sentiment of millions of people who participate and come up with some number or come up with an average.
Right. No, I mean, what's your read of the situation, of what you see around?
So if you're talking of sentiments, I don't have any view to offer. But if you're talking of the fundamentals of our markets, opportunities, I remain very positive. I think we are structurally in a very much more an evolved situation, and the structural changes are deep. They are not shallow. They are not only for a short while. They are for a longer term. And these changes would bring profound kind of long-term consequences, not temporary ones. And therefore, I believe the belief about businesses and the opportunity and their growth and the quality of their growth in this country has become much better than at any other point of time. And therefore, that in itself increases the value of a business, because one of the important factors for impacting valuation of any business is longevity. If you have belief about longevity, then obviously valuation witnesses an increased kind of belief from the others. And when the future is hazy or longevity is compromised, then obviously for the same business valuation suffer, because there is no real view beyond the immediacy. Therefore, one of the most important things that has happened, in my opinion, is from immediacy we have learned to look into a greater distance, and that is something which is very vital for value of the businesses. Secondly, character of the businesses has improved. Thirdly, the deep changes in many parts of the economy are now combining together and forming a kind of ecosystem together. Each change in isolation does only so much. But when you bring many of them together, then they build and create consequences well beyond just the impact of that immediacy. And therefore, I think instead of impact being arithmetical when there are isolated changes in a few, but when they are all built together into a network, then it becomes geometrical. I believe we are into something of that kind.
Right. That's an interesting take, Mr. Shah. So overall, currently, if you see in terms of our markets as compared to other global economies, we're talking of a lot of negative news coming in the form of recessions, in terms of wars, as well as, I mean, what's happening in terms of the political instability as well. Where would you place India as an investment bet?
Well, in a way, it may sound a little overstatement, and perhaps it is. But I think in many ways, the Western world, many of the supposedly more developed economies, certainly as economies, many of them are, but as more mature societies or political units, many of these Western world economies are increasingly looking like emerging market kind of places. And in fact, a country like India is actually showing a better path in terms of greater resilience, greater adaptability, and a more forward-looking view to anticipate issues and begin to solve them, as well as solve a lot of intractable issues which we have been bogged down with over a period of time. And also those are getting solved. So in many aspects, I would say India is actually looking compared to many of the Western world places, relatively in a more appropriately elevated place. And it is not merely about economic growth rate or its magnitude or its duration and the period. All of those are important. The quality of that growth also is important. But
Hmm.
I think there is a certain degree of panache, there is a certain degree of confidence and belief that comes when things are being done in a strategic way and in a mature way. And I think those kind of things are relatively more appropriately visible in India compared to many of the developed markets. I
Hmm.
mean, we've been seeing the spectacle of what is going on in UK. We've also seen, and UK is not alone in the Europe or in the Western world. In most of the places, we are seeing very peculiar in terms of strategy, in terms of long-term kind of behavior, in terms of response maturity, in terms of societal responses, in terms of the kind of steps taken. For example, during the pandemic time, the Western world was busy throwing money in the hands of people rather than doing hard work of reforms. It's very easy to throw money into the hands of people and stimulate demand side because it is easy to get votes that way. You keep put money into hands of people, and therefore politically it is very expedient and easy to do so. It is supply side initiatives which requires reforms, and reforms is a hard work.
Hmm.
If you see the Western world economies, they were all busy throwing trillions of dollars of money into the hands of people rather than taking genuine, tougher, but important long term reforms, which is what India has shown. And which is why I would say our handling of the pandemic, economic challenges, the restraint that we have shown, the fiscal discipline and rectitude that we've displayed, all of that has been actually far more like a developed market economy and more mature behavior. And actually, the Western world, in that respect, comes across as very immature kind of responses that they have displayed. Also, if you look at it, in terms of all the interest rate steps that have happened in America in particular. But what is the origin of it? Most of the Western world indulge in the perversity of bringing down interest rates next to nothing, and in some cases even negative. And this kind of peculiar spectacle we have been seeing for years, even before pandemic. That spectacle had begun, where money was abused, it was cheapened beyond recognition, and where even negative interest rates were visible. I mean, that's an ultimate irony that what is a negative interest rate supposed to be? That is a very lazy behavior, very inappropriate economic behavior that the Western world indulge in. And now, suddenly, when they are caught with the trouble at hand, some of it of their own creation, actually, uh, they are running helter skelter to just raise the interest rates in a arbitrary way. And in a way, America is using its strength of the universal currency to transfer inflationary problem of America to the others by raising interest rate, in turn making dollar so much more expensive than it probably deserves to, and in turn transferring that inflationary challenges to the others while they themselves should bear the consequences. So in various aspects, I would say Western world behavior is deeply fallen short of, forget about being optimal, but not even anywhere resembling reasonable.
Hmm.
And therefore, many of the issues, on the other hand, India's monetary responses have been phenomenally mature and sound. So, both on the fiscal side as well as on the monetary side, India has displayed far greater prudence, wisdom, restraint, and solidity, while the Western world, exactly the opposite antonyms can be used.
Absolutely. In fact, very well pointed out, Mr. Shah. So, overall, from an India perspective, what should that investment strategy be? And, which are the sectors do you think should be a good investment bet now?
Well, I think this question is a standard one, but probably
Absolutely.
unnecessary. I would say a country which is going to grow not for 3 or 5 years, but 10 years and 15 years and 20 years at a more than reasonable rate, with a kind of a rising crescendo, and more importantly, superior quality of growth, which is what I believe that will happen. It is not merely the quantum of growth rate, but the quality of growth, which is equally, if not bit more important than the quantum of growth. So many things will grow virtually. In a way, India is a virgin opportunity. Even today, the size and scale at with the economy is, I think, so many things will grow. Lending businesses, we are under leverage as a society. The lenders themselves have relatively less leverage on their books, and in the context of their net worth. And the entire opportunity on the lending side is mammoth. Demand is emerging from infrastructure side, on the real estate, on the exports front, because that needs to be funded. Exports are growing, the businesses are growing, and that needs funding. And in some form and shape, even the new capital expenditure or the capital formation led demand, if not also the consumer demand. So many forms of the demand are now combining together, and we are seeing that visible. Insurance over a period of time, whether life or general, in both ways, we are underinsured materially, life more particularly. And these are long term kind of directional strong changes. And therefore, that opportunity on a long term remains mammoth. Businesses on the chemical side, where India has tremendous strength, and substitution of China, given its behavioral pattern over last few years. And rightly, people are worried about remaining dependent on China. Therefore, whether active pharmaceutical ingredients, specialty chemical, active agro specialty, India has a huge capability and potential to be of use. Consumers, whether durables, staples, in this country, staples also grow. Therefore, discretionary, luxury, durables all have a long term, very strong growth path for it to grow. Then you take health related entire ecosystem, and pandemic in turn has kicked it off greater into our consciousness as to where it has to. And therefore, those opportunities remain material. Infrastructure build and related supplies, therefore capital goods, cement, many of these businesses over long term will grow materially. Businesses which help digitization, or businesses which help others in adapting digitization, and the businesses which are intelligently utilizing digital strength to improve the character of the businesses, will do very well. PLI is bringing about major changes in some of the manufacturing businesses, and those are opportunities too. So, plenty of them.
Right. So overall, with these kind of opportunities coming in, as you mentioned, how would your view be with regards to export-oriented sectors, specifically if you have to talk about pharma and IT?
No, so I did refer to that, demand for capital is coming also because exports are doing well. And last year was a record year, $420 billion dollars of exports, 250 billion exports of services. The two together, goods and services, about 670, some good 37% higher than the previous high. So remarkable jump. Also, we have been systematically trying to work on current account. Therefore, we are looking at each area of import and seeing how we can substitute and how we can bring in ecosystem within the country rather than rely on, imports. For example, the initiative on the green hydrogen or H2 and the entire renewable power ecosystem. And India is actually showing the lead to the rest of the world in adapting that. Therefore, those areas will have deep consequences over a period of time on helping in replacing some of the imports. When we develop a strong renewable energy and H2 footprint, some of the other areas also which are energy dependent and traditionally large part of imports emanate there. For example, urea, half the urea we import. Ammonia, almost 85-90% of ammonia we import. Hydrocarbon resources, we import almost 85%. Once we develop a proper supply chain and renewable energy security for us, many of these issues also will get solved. On the other hand, on exports, through PLI and through other methods, we are systematically working on each area to see how to boost exports. So both exports are sought to be increased. Defense is an example of that, where at one stage we were only importers, and now we have begun to export also. And now it is reaching a stage where we are looking reasonable number in that, and at some stage, hopefully, will be much more than that. So exports are identified, areas are identified, and are sought to be spurred. Imports are sought to be supply chain and the value chains are being analyzed and how they can be substituted both from a national importance, critical importance point of view, as well as to reduce import dependence. Both economic and strategic objectives have to be achieved. And therefore, many of these businesses will do very well over a period of time.
Absolutely. And very lastly, Mr. Shah, what would your advice be to new investors who are wanting to start investing now as a Diwali tip?
Well, we shouldn't look at it as a Diwali gift because investing is a long-term battle, rather a long-term war. Unfortunately, media, general noise, everything seems to egg on as if investing is short-term and near-term and 3 and 6 month of flirtatious affair or an opportunistic engagement. It is neither. Investing is a long-term attainment, and you have to get bruised. You have to get go through the battles, both psychological and real battle on your money, and you have to learn and keep applying that learning to keep getting better at the craft, to keep raising your game. But the rewards when you do that are phenomenal, not just in terms of economic terms of money and wealth, but also in terms of gratification that you get by learning things that you otherwise, most of the things in most of the professions can't teach you. And those kind of learnings, and you meet with amongst most insightful people who have something to leave you with in terms of thought process. So that itself is a great joy, knowledge gratification. Investing, if one is into it only for money or wealth or all of that, then I would say you are into a wrong activity. If you do good investing and you do it conscientiously over long run in a disciplined way, sticking to the principles, sticking to ideas, at the same time remaining adaptable, intelligently adaptable and resilient, uh, any such good investing effort eventually will lead to money and riches and wealth. But those are byproducts. Real benefits that you get from investing are the fulfillment of passion, the knowledge gratification, the learning that it imparts, the joy of doing something useful for others who depend upon you, and not only to get the right results, but to get it the right way. And to walk through that journey, these are phenomenal rewards in themselves. Money, wealth, all other things, recognition are byproducts, even if they are important, but they're byproducts. They will happen in any case. Really, focus has to be on doing things right, learning the right ideas, learning the strategy, learning to manage that investing is not a short-term affair, it's a long-term marriage. It is not about immediacy, it is about long-term. And more than the quantum, it is the quality which is important. And many of these ideas, as you weave in through, then the real power of the investing comes, firing all guns.
Absolutely. I think that's the perfect advice and mentorship, I would say, that you've given, Mr. Shah, because that's what the mindset for a young investor or anyone who's starting to invest should be like, from a longer term perspective, to look at quality, and your gains will always follow. Thank you so much, and wishing you and all the viewers a happy Diwali as well.
Very happy Diwali to you and to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from Nirmal Bang.